It's only by His grace.
By His grace.
Yes.
Which means things are hard for you too.
Oh, it's for everybody.
Because I thought some people were out of the bracket.
Oh, no.
And I figured you're one of the few people who will be out of the bracket. Who will survive. But I think that's the question I've been asking.
I receive it.
That's fantastic, Christian. And that was a question I asked earlier to Franklin Kujo of Imani Africa.
Okay.
Whether there's any way you see anybody understanding the kind of inflation we have. It's the biggest challenge you have. You're having exchange rate difficulties. Is there any way anybody in this country, because of their income level or the kind of special situation they find themselves in, will be exempt or will not feel the pinch?
Well, it will be difficult to say that someone is being spared with the current circumstances we find ourselves in as a country. It will only take somebody who probably is earning dollars.
Okay.
To probably live good, or is benefiting extremely from corruption.
Okay.
I think these are the two people who are living well and good.
Paid in dollars, benefiting from corruption.
Yes.
Oh, so the people who are currently.
Exactly.
But even the dollars, you have to exchange them into cedis, won't you?
Well, that gives you more, but that more can even buy less. But at least, in terms of your nominal, it keeps going up for you. It is more like a growth, a capital gain that you receive on a daily basis.
Okay.
Yes, and so, yes, you will be doing well. If you were receiving $1,000 some few weeks back, in July, it was around 7,200 cedis. Today, the same amount is 10,000 cedis. So, of course, there is some capital gain. At least they are not losing that much like we are doing.
So that person has a certain level of stability when it comes to their income.
Absolutely.
But for the average Ghanaian, how do you get around this?
Well, the average Ghanaian is living within a financial environment.
Okay.
And unless you take yourself away or out of that environment, you are in and you can't get out of it.
You have to find a way of coping with it.
Yes. You have no choice but to cope with it.
But is there any way you see salary levels ever rising up to the challenge?
Under these circumstances, I don't see how possible.
Why?
We are struggling with a huge budget deficit that we need to even pull down. Struggling to actually meet the revenue targets. And so I cannot see how government would raise or increase salary levels. If anything, they should be pruning it down. If you come to the private sector, I think they are equally hit by the inflation rates we are seeing. And therefore, it is about business survival and not thinking about... in fact, if there is anything, the first target will be staff or staff costs. The first point of target in terms of cost reduction is it has always been staff costs. So
instead of getting more, if you're working for the private sector,
yes,
it is actually the protection of your job that you should be praying for.
Exactly. You should be praying for the protection of jobs, because by September, October, I think there will be more unemployment out there because people will have to let go of staff.
Exactly what is happening to this economy?
This is an economy that has been broken through recklessness, and that's about it. It's simple.
Broken through recklessness.
Yeah.
Recklessness of who?
of those managing the public purse.
How have they done that?
Well, I think we get ourselves schooled, we get education, so that we can all live a certain uniform, organized life. And one thing you don't acquire in school is how to be reckless. It comes to you naturally. Um, they say there is an animalistic instinct in every human being. And so if anybody chooses to go that way, it is not difficult at all, because you don't even have to obtain a PhD to be reckless. It comes by nature. And I think a group of people found themselves in power, and they thought they can be reckless, and their recklessness will pay off. I don't know how they wanted to achieve that, but it was clear. Look, they were handed over a difficult position, as they said. We were talking about 72% in terms of our debt to GDP, brought down in 2016, that's 2016, 2017 to 68%. And then now, we are almost at 100% debt to GDP. How can you describe that?
But the argument has always been that, well, when it comes to debt, for a country like Ghana, you definitely have to borrow.
Well, you would have to borrow, but not without ensuring that paying back is comfortable or within limits. If you go out there, and that is the basis of me saying that a group of people thought they could be reckless and still have their way. It is not a challenge if you are raising enough revenues, because you would have to look at your revenue growth and juxtapose that to your debt growth. If your revenue is growing at a rate of about 5%, and your debt is growing over 100%, then there is something certainly wrong about those managing this economy.
Revenue growing slower than debt.
Exactly. It is one of the most simplistic economic tools you would always have to be guided by. Every first year student of economics is taught this, that you would always have to watch the growth in terms of your revenue as against the growth in debt.
You have to look at the monies coming to you before you think about going to borrow.
Exactly. Because your capacity to repay is solely dependent on the revenues you generate. The capacity to service your debt solely depends on the revenues you are able to rake in. So if that is slow, then you must be slower with your debt acquisitions.
So in this case, you see an administration that wasn't paying attention to that. All they were interested in is that they had there's the room to borrow, and they just kept borrowing.
Exactly. And that is recklessness. If you are looking for the definition of recklessness, you'll find it in Ghana.
So for you, that's the underlying problem.
Exactly. That's the underlying challenge we have.
Russia, Ukraine, COVID.
Please. Russia-Ukraine did not happen in 2019.
There was a problem in 2019.
Of course. The debt growth was 113%.
In 2019?
In 2019.
Our debt
Yes, the growth in our debt,
113.
113%.
So that's where the real challenge started from.
Absolutely.
So you're saying immediately we moved out of the IMF program.
Recklessness setting.
But was that also not for a purpose?
What is the purpose? You know, yes, for every revenue or business asset you acquire, some way, somewhat, it is financed by debt. When we say capital, accountants, when we say capital that I put in the business, it's actually debt.
Okay.
So this is the debt or something you borrow to an entity to take on a certain orientation or to take on a certain business to generate profits. And those assets are the ones that are worked to generate revenues. And therefore, if you put or you acquire debt, it is not bad if those debts went into financing assets that can perform to give you enough revenues to service and pay back your debt. That is not what we did.
Okay.
The growth of 113% in 2019 in terms of our debt did not go to finance assets that can pay back our debt. What it did was rather to invest heavily in consumption.
A couple of things. One district, one factory. One village, one dam. Those are projects that are supposed to be productive in nature.
They are all useless programs. And I say so because it has not reflected in terms of the pricing of food. In fact, food inflation is what is leading the inflation chart.
Food inflation.
Yes.
So one village, one dam, one district, one factory, and then I forgot the famous planting for food and jobs.
Exactly.
All of those investments
Yes.
have yielded no result.
They are useless. If you say they have yielded no results, it looks like we are speaking English. They are useless.
But is it not too early to start maybe planting for food and jobs? You can judge now. But one village, one dam, and then one district, one factory, is it not too early to start making those judgments?
I'm telling you on authority, they are all useless. If not, government should be able to tell us the gains, especially in one district, one factory. I challenge them. In fact, Ghana has spent so much or has lost so much than it has gained in one district, one factory.
Lost more than it had gained?
Yes.
How?
Because what it sought to do was only to give tax exemptions to companies that were already operating. So now, somebody walks to you and tell you that you have a company running. Look, let me put a signboard in front of your company, write one district, one factory, and then I give you tax exemptions. Won't you do it?
Sounds like a good business arrangement.
Yes.
All you need is a signboard.
All you need is a signboard.
Free tax exemption.
Tax exemption. This, and I'm saying 90 to 95% of all the companies, and I challenge government to come out, of all those companies were companies that either two were already operating.
But do you disagree with such a policy?
Heavily.
You disagree with it?
Exactly.
Setting up a factory in every district across this country, you disagree with?
I disagree with it.
But that would have expanded our manufacturing and production base, would it not?
Okay. Look, we would have to understand how things work, especially in business or in an economy. If I put up a factory here in Latebiokoshi. That factory should be feeding on a local produce so that it will enhance whatever is being produced from the side of Latebiokoshi.
A raw material.
A raw material.
Okay.
When you set up a factory that is going to be heavily dependent on a raw material that has to be imported, what have you done?
A factory dependent on an imported raw material.
Exactly. You are putting more pressure on your currency.
Okay.
The essence of we saying let's industrialize is not to bring inputs from elsewhere, but to source those inputs locally, so that the things that we produce locally in Ghana, we can enhance them and sell them for more than selling them at their raw state. That is the essence, adding more value to what we produce here locally.
Okay.
That is the only thing we would gain, or will give us some gains in terms of revenue and exchange, foreign exchange.
Okay.
So if you are doing this, you are looking at the export market as well. How has one district, one factory also increased our export income?
What have we been exporting from the factories we set up?
Exactly. Assuming before the implementation of this program, Ghana's exports is around $1 billion prior to this program. And then we implemented this program. And now we are doing $2 billion. Then we can say that looking at the tax cuts or the tax exemptions we have given to such companies, we have made profits. They should present us that account. If the project is not useless.
I think it's my friend Solomon who always argue that they have is it trade surplus?
And the trade surplus is coming from where? The trade surplus is coming from your oil that you don't have 100% receipts. It's coming from the prices, increase in prices of your gold. That again, you don't earn 100% of those proceeds. So your trade surplus is there just in figures, but you really don't benefit from it. So what are we talking about?
So what should have been the approach? And I'm going to these policies because every time they are the ones that I refer to. And going back to the matter of the monies that have been borrowed and what they have been used for. I'll come back to free SHS. But you are talking about one district, one factory.
Yes.
Are you talking about an approach like the one that was looked at in terms of Komenda Sugar Factory, where you're saying you can grow sugar cane?
Exactly.
To feed the factory.
Exactly. Assuming we would import sugar cane with all the global supply chain challenges, right? What it would mean is that you would end up producing at a cost higher than your competitors in Ivory Coast. Faskadugu in Ivory Coast is producing sugar.
Okay. But they are growing the sugar cane.
They are growing the sugar cane. I think apart from Sudan and other places, Ivory Coast has one of the largest sugar cane plantation with a very high percentage in terms of sugar in their sugar cane. I think they are doing around 12-13% in terms of sugar in their sugar cane.
Okay.
So it is not just merely waking up one day and granting a pure water company.
That includes pure water.
Oh, of course.
Like sachet water companies.
Sachet water companies are all under one district, one factory.
So, so the approach should have been identify a place that has a raw material base already, or where a raw material base can be grown.
In fact, if we have smart people in power, what you would have done is to direct the investment.
Okay.
And that is what has been done elsewhere. When you go to the northern part, from the middle to the northern part of Ivory Coast, you are given some discount on your electricity.
Okay.
Right? It means that they are directing the flow of investment into certain areas.
Okay.
And then they are saying that if you go into palm, which they are growing, if you go into that, which they are growing, and they can feed the factories, then we give you this as well.
Okay.
Now, this was just an open for all.
There was no targeted scheme.
There is no targeted scheme. There is nothing. Absolutely nothing. Look, if you grant somebody who is going to come in here to open a pineapple factory, right, for which our tax laws grant a tax exemption for 4 years, I suppose, right? If you grant such a company that is in food processing, one district, one factory,
Okay.
really, what was it meant to achieve? The tax laws give them about 4 years exemption in taxes, in corporate taxes.
Already,
Already.
when they set up.
Exactly. So you see, all the fanfare you saw was a waste of resources. Because everybody enjoys that. And this is a country where we have the blue skies and all that already operating. And at least they are doing good. Maybe what should have been done is to look at the value chain and how we could assist them to produce more. And when you produce more and can sell more volumes, then you are increasing your export. And then an increase in your foreign exchange receipts. Anything apart from that, it's not worth it. And that is why I call it useless.
So that's one district, one factory. One village, one dam. And the reason they sounded so reasonable for everybody was because we all understand, I think there's only one planting season in the north. Because they only have, I think, one rainy season. And the agriculture is mainly rain-fed. So if the promise is to create dams for them that can ensure that they can plant out of the rainy season, that sounds like a good idea. So first, the idea alone, didn't this sound reasonable to you?
Sena, sometimes I'm tempted to say that we are cursed.
Who? We as a country
Yes.
are cursed. Why?
But if you can have people thinking this way, what else can you say?
So you disagree with the whole idea in the first place?
Look, just close by in Burkina Faso, they have same weather conditions. What are they doing there? They don't have dams. And our Greek ministry cannot say that they don't know.
Burkina Faso does not have those dams.
Yes, they have dugouts.
Oh, okay. So they do dugouts.
They do dugouts. And our Ministry of Agric is fully aware, because people from our Ministry of Agri, way back, pre this administration, have had a lot of programs with the Burkinabés. A lot of them are aware of what was done in Burkina Faso. And it will not take the kind of investment we put in there.
You take less.
Yes, way
That
less.
girls that can hold water during the dry season.
Yes, yes. So now I'm saying they know it. Call anybody from our Ministry of Agric and ask them what is being done in Burkina Faso. Salaga is on the same coordinates with Faskadugu in Ivory Coast. Similar weather condition, similar weather patterns. All year round, they are planting. So don't tell me that we don't know, or we couldn't learn from our own colleagues, just next door neighbors. Why do we need even to open an office for that?
You got a whole ministry for it, actually.
Exactly. Special initiative, this here, that here, that here. Everything was a waste of resources. So you realize that, yes, the borrowings we claim to have borrowed all went into useless investments that will never pay for itself. After all these years, tell me, what is the growth in agric, and how has that reflected in the quality of life or improved the living standard of the Ghanaian? Because that is supposed to be the agenda, that you and I, our living standard, will be improved by the investments that we put in.
So I'm guessing you're thinking the same when it comes to planting for food and jobs.
Absolutely. And even that is worse.
The planting for food and jobs
It's worse.
Where have they failed?
Well, they have failed again. It is about targeting.
Okay.
What crops are you targeting? You know, the planting for food, right, should have been positioned in a way to feed the one district, one factories.
Okay.
If there is anything like that. Now, you can't just go around and just give out inputs.
Okay.
And mind you, the fertilizer they claim and all that was only subsidized. The farmers were paying part.
Okay.
At this point, the farmers are even paying more than what government is paying.
Okay.
So it wasn't like free input. No. Now, when you have grown these commodities, what did you do with them? Assuming you increase food production, what did you do with them? You were supposed to have held them in buffer stock and control prices during the lean season. Did we see that happening? No. In fact, it rather cost us more under COVID when we decided to share dry foods. It cost the Ghanaian more than if he had gone to the market during COVID. So what is the essence of the investment?
Ghana's gold, radio gold.
Equally useless.
Well, if you just join us, I have in the studio with me Nii Yarboi Annan. He's a financial analyst. I'm because of the matter of debt, I'm trying to get to the point where perhaps maybe if we can find an answer to the question where we spend the money on and what we have gained from it. And there's the famous issue of free SHS.
Mhm.
There's NAPCO. And recently, I think I heard the Minister for Roads claiming that they've done the most roads. They've done more roads than any other government.
Well, at the end of the day, it is not the building of roads. It's what the roads contribute towards our revenue generation. If you build more roads, that can bring food to our urban centers with less costs, then you would have done something beneficiary to the people. Now, if you put up roads, that will not contribute anything to our GDP, except the construction itself.
Okay.
Then you have done nothing. Let me ask, has the travel time between Accra and Kumasi been improved?
Travel time between Accra and
Yes.
Kumasi?
Has it been improved?
No. Not really.
Okay. The travel time between Accra and Takrady, the west, has it improved? Has the travel time between Accra, Hohoi, the Eastern Corridor, has it improved? No. Has the travel time between Accra and the north, has that also improved? From Kintampo to Accra, has it improved? From the north to Accra, has it improved? That is what we should look at.
What gains we are making with the road projects we are targeting?
Exactly. But why do you do or put money into anything? Why? Why would you put money into anything? It's for returns and good returns. Have you seen anybody worth calling himself a businessman who only puts money into projects and come back with negatives? Have you seen anybody of that sort? Free SHS. What is the cost of our educated people in this country? How efficient are educated people at work? The efficiency had reduced over the years. In 2016, the efficiency is 2.06. 2017, it has reduced to 1.96. Early 2020, it has further reduced to 1.86 in terms of efficiency. So, tell me, the investment we have put in education, what has come out of it? No doubt, education is necessary. But you can't just be making or throwing money, good money, at nothing. It doesn't make sense. And that is why we need to be more critical in the management of our resources. Monitor carefully the investments we make and why we should make those investments. you produce educated youth that cannot be employed. Neither will they be that efficient as even factory hands. So what is the essence of putting money in those projects?
A few things the president has said that he wants a much more educated mass.
To do what? To speak English? I think Canada has the most educated population, if I'm not mistaken. But that is not what matters. What matters is what that educated population are able to do in the most efficient way.
And then there's also the constitutional imperative that says that at some point in time when we are able to, we should make secondary education free for all.
Well, constitution is constitution. Have we fully implemented almost every law in our books? So, if it does not make economic sense, we should still go ahead at the detriment of our financial health? No. I mean, then you are not being wise. If you look at most corporate governance requirements and all that, you need to do this. Are you saying that the most profitable companies in this world, like Apple and others, are observing every single corporate governance rules at the detriment of profit? No. Why do they normally get to court? Because they broke rules to be where they are. So it is not like a straitjacket kind of a thing. Has any president been arrested because we have not implemented fully the Constitution? No. I'm yet to see one.
Well, so to you, recklessness in terms of borrowing and what we spent it on
Exactly.
is the problem now.
Exactly.
So what triggered this particular situation at this time? What happened?
Well, the situation, we were already working ourselves there.
Okay.
And then we were harried by COVID. And then Ukraine. That's all.
So you agree COVID and Russia are triggers?
No. They are only enhancers.
So they pushed us.
Yeah. We were, look, I mean, every economy, no matter how bad it is, always will need a trigger. In 2007, in the US, the trigger was their financial sector. The collapse in mortgages and all that. That is what triggered it all. Right? It has happened over the years. Sometimes it is the pricing in terms of oil that becomes the trigger. In fact, the IMF had to change their policies in the 70s and 80s because of that same trigger, where oil prices went so high and all that. So yes, when you are managing an economy, you manage it to withstand some of these triggers. But if you manage the economy and is not able to, in fact, withstand any form of shock, then you cannot have said that you had a robust economy.
Okay.
Prior to all this, 2017, 2018, 2019, the language, and even 2020 when COVID hit, we were told how robust
The economy was. Yeah.
the economy was. So why are you coming back to change the language? Maintain it.
So if the economy was robust enough, we should be able to
Yes.
stand the shocks of
Yes.
COVID and
Yes.
Russia, Ukraine.
Yes. If your investment had paid off, inflation shouldn't have been at 33%.
Okay. But do you also agree with people who say that our inflationary figures are unrealistic? That is actually higher.
Well, yes, I agree with them. In fact, if you will remember, I had said that for me, I saw the inflation figures at 33% when it was around 26 and all that.
So it's now higher
But-
for you.
Oh, yes, it's still higher. I think we are around 50%.
50% inflation
Yeah.
year on year.
Yeah.
Well, the IMF is in town. And once again, the negotiations are. There are negotiations that are happening already. The government has given us an indication that it looks like this time the focus will be on the debt. How much we actually owe. How bad is that situation?
Very bad. Very bad. And that is also due to a weakened CD.
Okay.
Just imagine that in July it was $54.4 billion. That translates to something around 393 billion. And then now the rate is like 10.
Yes.
So you are already around 500 and something, 548 or so billion in terms of
Debt.
debt.
Because of your weakened city.
Your weakened city. That is without the current additions
Okay.
of 1 billion, the ESLA, I think around 10 billion. You are looking at the financial sector bailout around between 25 27 billion. You're almost around 600 billion.
What's our GDP?
Our GDP is $72 billion.
So the debt is now.
Your debt is around 68 70 billion dollars.
So they are at par.
They are at par.
And I hear they are doing what they call debt sustainability analysis. What does that mean? The IMF will do debt sustainability analysis. What does that mean?
Well, the IMF last debt sustainability analysis is to forecast how paying back is
Okay.
into the future, how much you need to service the debt you have on your books, and year on year, how much are you planning or you have programmed to issue more debt. And they look at all that, and they look at your ability to generate income to pay that.
Okay.
That ability is clearly not there. Nothing has happened to this economy that shows that we are able, or we would be able in the near future, to push up our revenues. So, in fact, the 2021 report says that we are high risk of distress.
The IMF's own report.
Yes. And with the worsening situation, I think it is clear that we will have to do debt restructuring.
How painful would that be? No,
Very
actually,
painful. Because whatever government is trying to do is to quicken recovery for us to be able to go back onto the international market.
Should that be the target?
That is their target.
No, but should that be the target? Because for the average Ghanaian,
That's the price you pay by putting such people in power.
no, but
That is
but
their
what
target.
road would have helped us as Ghanaians?
Well, what role would have helped us?
I know we are already here, so where do we need to? What would we realistically need to do to help us out of this? The manner that's helpful to the Ghanaian, not to them.
You know, it is whatever you plan today is going to take some time to generate results. What we needed to have done now is to go back to the basics.
Okay.
One, how are we able to ensure that we protect or we safeguard the city from further deterioration? That is number one for me.
Okay.
Then two, how can we have a huge import substituted with our local produce? And that is using local resources to do that.
Okay.
That is two. And then physical discipline.
Okay.
We have gotten ourselves here. We would have to take the bullet for it. We have to be honest with ourselves. We are not in a good place. In fact, we are in deep waters. What I feel we should do now is to prune down our expenditure heavily. And one of those places, like I said earlier, will be to reduce. And it is difficult, but we would have to do it. We would have to reduce our wages and salaries heavily.
Wages and salaries?
Yes. And that means people will go home.
For the average civil servant or for the political appointees?
Political appointees should take the lead first. In fact, when you are liquidating a business, you are told those who are supposed to be taken care of first and foremost. A similar thing should be done in this regard. Political appointees should be reduced drastically. Assets with political appointees should be directed into income generation. Then we can come to our public and civil servants.
That would be very difficult.
We have to do it. There is no choice.
But is it fair?
Well, we are not in the era of fairness. Unfortunately, the people of Ghana haven't been reckless, but a set of people they put in power have been very reckless. And unfortunately, we would have to pay the price for it. It is better done now than to wait for it to further compound. If we should go the same way we are going, I don't think when a different government comes into power 2025, we will be able to bite that bullet.
And that is where the issue is.
Yeah.
President Gov'T says this is his last great political feat to hand over power to an MPP government. And there are those who suggest that his choice is Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. There are those who feel that the only real change you can get is in 2024. If that is the plan of the people in power, how do you get out of this?
I think we should not waste our time on the rhetorics of the president. What does he not say? Do you take him serious? The president of Ghana, do you take him serious?
On the matters of politics?
Well, I think the 2024 vote was cast a few nights ago when he attempted to address the youth of Ghana. I think the vote was cast.
Oh, but they say those are NDC sympathizers.
Well, we take them. Isn't it beautiful that only NDC sympathizers troop into the Independence Square and fill the place? Then why are you in power? What were you doing addressing NDC sympathizers? It shall come to pass.
Nii Yarboi Annan, thank you very much for making time this morning.
You're welcome.
In fact, I think we have to make time to talk about your perspectives on Galamsey, particularly from the perspective of somebody who is in the financial sector. Yes, because there's a lot of talk about how gold could have
Helped
control
us.
of the gold
Yes.
that we have in this country could have helped.
Yes.
There are people who have challenged me on those, so I think perhaps maybe we'll test it and see.
Of course. I mean, that's the surest way. That is one resource we could have used to shore up our reserves.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Nii Yarboi Annan is a financial analyst. He joined us this morning for a conversation on the economy. Of course, he will be back. The issue of gold and how we are managing it is something that we need to talk about in great detail
Certainly.
and a bit more. Let me say a happy birthday to my very good friend Joyce Kwebuton, who celebrates her birthday today. Happy birthday to you. There's also happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. And let me indicate that coming up right after the Gold Morning Conversation, it'll Chami Bajimba, the king of mid-morning, with a mid-morning show comes your way today. And today, let me be sure what the producer sent to me. Susie's message. Contemporary High Life session is what is coming your way today on the mid-morning show. Samuel Owusu is in the spotlight. Samuel Owusu, the High Life musician. Yeah, that one. He is in the spotlight on the mid-morning show today. My name is Sana Nomboy. On behalf of the fantastic team we have here on the Good Morning Conversation, I wish you the best of the day and say enjoy the rest of our programs. Don't tune out. Stay tuned to Radio Gold 90.5. And don't forget, Carlton Cakes and Pastries have introduced a special finger-licking bites called Carlton's Bites. They have pizza, shawarma, cupcakes, burgers. Pizza, shawarma, cupcakes, burgers. They have all that. All you have to do is give them a call right now, 0270 940335. 027 094 0335.